Well, it has barely been a month since the day of reckoning in Riyadh, and we are back, and we are right back at it. Two men carved out of stone collide in the Kingdom March 8th. The former two-time unified world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua takes on a man mountain, the lineal MMA heavyweight champion, the man that gave Tyson Fury a bit of a fright at the kickoff of Riyadh season, Francis Ngannou. Today, it's press conference day. Here we are back in London. Welcome to press conference day ahead of KO Chaos in the Kingdom. I can't believe this fight's happening. It's a fantasy fight. It's Anthony Joshua, it's Francis Ngannou, and today they're going to come face to face for the first time. I'm delighted to be joined by another couple of real giants here. Ben Davison, AJ's trainer, come on. Andy Clark, a giant of boxing broadcasting. Gentlemen, how are we?
I thought you meant physically,
So did I.
You're doing all right, Ben. You're doing all right. So tell me about this. Like, look, we've got to bring you in straight away. I don't know how long we've got you for, but AJ Ngannou. When we talked about this fight, when we talked about what AJ was going to do next after Volin, I didn't really think anyone thought about Ngannou, but here he is.
Yeah, I mean, look, he made a real statement. Let's be honest, he made a real statement when he boxed Tyson. I think he shocked the whole world. He's shown it. He's more than credible, and it's a real fight. It's a real fight.
And now you've got 10 rounds worth of tape. That's an advantage that you guys have that Tyson Fury didn't have, and I'm sure you and Lee Wiley will be meticulously freeze-framing every single moment.
Yeah, for sure. That is a bonus, 100%. You know, that is an advantage that we have. But there's a job to do, and we're preparing very seriously. We're taking this very seriously. I think that his performance against Tyson, I think, at the time, I know Tyson, obviously. I've worked with him.
Just a bit.
He's a very professional athlete. He takes his job very seriously. He would have prepared properly for Ngannou. Now, mentally sometimes it's hard to put yourself in a position where you fully have that respect for the opponent that you should, even though you're trying to do all the right things that you should do. Sometimes that's not there. Only he can answer those questions, but I think Ngannou shocked all of us, and I think that he's, as I said before, he's a very, very credible opponent.
He certainly is, Andy Clark.
Yeah, he is 100%, and it's just a fascinating situation to have somebody new just enter the fray like this, because you don't get that in sport, because where are people going to come from? You can't just decide, okay, off the back of nothing, I'll go to the Olympics, win a gold medal, then turn pro the next day. So tactically, to have somebody just appear like this, it's bizarre, to be honest, but it's also fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And what you said about Fury there, I think you're absolutely right. We can't know for sure, but I would imagine that he just didn't have that knot of fear in his stomach that drives you to that next level, that fear that you could lose. I think that probably wasn't there. But, you know, 10 rounds later, whoever was going to get him next, it would be a different story, and it's Anthony.
What has AJ been saying to you about this fight? I'm sure he watched the fight with Tyson Fury. I'm sure you guys have been watching it. What's he saying to you about that fight and about this fight?
Again, much like I said about Tyson, he's a true professional, very, very professional, takes his job very seriously. And, you know, not that it needs reiterating, but he's reiterating the fact to his team that this is a serious fight and the job needs to be done properly.
Is this one of those Ruiz 2 performances? Is that what you've got in your head? Has he got to box perfectly, keep away from him? Or is this something where actually, because Dewey Cooper's been talking about this fight as fire versus fire, two guys swinging it out. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think that Ngannou's team won't be as mad as that. I think if they go gun-ho to Joshua, he punches more than hard enough that if he's a bit reckless in Ngannou, he gets caught on a counter, it could be game over very quickly. I think that it'll be a similar approach from Ngannou, and that makes him a handful. A patient go, can punch really hard. He didn't get carried away with himself. He didn't get flustered. That, along with his physicality, is what brings the threat. If he's a bit gun-ho and a bit reckless, you know, I think his team know enough. And on Dewey Cooper, I know of Dewey Cooper because of a performance from Jesse Vargas against Manny Pacquiao, where he performed a lot better than people expected him to. Straight away, I've always had Dewey Cooper in my mind as he's a coach that looked like he'd done his homework there. Then we saw the Ngannou fight versus Fury, and my respect went up for him even more. So, I'm sure they'll put together a good plan. I'm sure that they know enough not to be as gung-ho and as reckless as that, because the fight could be over that quickly. These are two big guys, and yes, Ngannou can punch, and he's a threat, but if he's reckless, don't forget, AJ's also one of the most devastating punchers out there, with the abilities to set traps, set things up, and make him pay for those silly mistakes.
In your head, Andy, who's got the better chin, by the way? Because we've seen Francis Ngannou get kicked in the head. We saw an elbow in the Tyson Fury fight as well, which he seemed to eat and keep coming forward. He took some good Tyson Fury shots as well. He's been talking about Anthony Joshua's chin. That's what he's highlighting. How are you seeing that?
People talk about chins a lot in boxing, and chinny is a phrase that people throw around, and if a fighter gets stigmatised, and it is a stigma as being chinny, then it can be hard to shed. I don't really buy into it myself. From speaking to trainers and everybody involved in boxing, if you get caught clean with a punch that you're not braced for, you're going down, and most likely in the heavyweight division you're getting knocked out. So if you expose that chin and get hit on it, then you've got a problem. But anyone can go if they get hit right, particularly at heavyweight. People might like to think that that's not the case, but they're fooling themselves if they think that's not the case. There are fighters, of course, who haven't been knocked out, but that's because they just, for whatever reason, that hasn't happened to them. I was talking to Frotch about this last year, and he said to me, listen, and you'd expect him to be the ultimate kind of, no one can knock me out kind of guy. And he said, no, I could have been knocked out. It just never happened. That's the jeopardy. That's the jeopardy. So I don't really buy into all this kind of chin business. You can get confidence from it if it's never happened to you, but you can't ever let that tip over into feeling like it couldn't, because it definitely could.
Genuine jeopardy for AJ in this one, Ben.
In every fight there is, everybody that has been fighting their whole life and is that size, they're a threat. And I've been standing here saying this is a genuine fight. So of course they all are at this level, but something that you have to accept, and something I think is really important that we're honest about, and we don't kid ourselves to think that this is an easy touch. It's not. And like I said before, we're preparing very seriously and professionally and taking this very serious.
And they are as well. I mean, Dewey Cooper's done a number of interviews over the weekend. I've been watching them. I love his voice, by the way. It's incredible. You'll hear it today up at the presser.
It's Hollywood, isn't it?
It's incredible. Like, some of the things he's been talking about, how his plan, beat Anthony Joshua, get a rematch with Tyson Fury, become undisputed champion of boxing.
Well, it'd be some run, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, we're going to have to put an end to that pretty quickly, so...
One of the things that he talked about as well was he was asked about the Usyk fights. Have you been watching the Usyk fights? Is there anything you can take from Usyk's wins over Anthony Joshua? And he said, yeah, because Francis can switch southpaw. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that I've been calling. I'd love the Usyk fight. Now working with AJ, I'm extremely confident of being able to help him put that right. And people said the same with Wallin. Struggle with southpaws. Wallin's going to be a tough fight, and he handled him more than comfortably. So, in terms of Usyk, I'd love to get the opportunity to help him put that one right.
It's interesting when people talk about game plans, isn't it? Because you will have a plan, of course, and in an ideal world, you go out there, execute your plan, it goes perfectly, they have no answers, and you win the fight. And that seemed to me to be basically what happened against Otto Wallin. But at this absolutely highest level, more often than not, it's your ability to adapt that'll win you the fight. And people have always talked about Joshua being this phenomenal kind of student, someone who's able to learn at a rate that other people just can't. Have you found that?
Yeah. So I think I can't speak for him, but my experience is extremely coachable, and I feel like trust got built to a certain point where I needed it to be just before the Otto Wallin fight, and there was a few things before going into the fight where I was extremely confident that trust was there. Now, each fight's different, and you have to keep building on that, and but I think the way that we coach suits the type of character he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's got everything he could possibly want available to him. You're not going to make him watch everything and do everything that Lee does and that you do, but he can if he wants to. And I think that's probably the key for him, maybe.
Yeah, it's our job to pick the right bits that we want to show and want to focus on, and dialogue as well. You know, he might have something on his mind. He's asking the question. A lot of it is talking, having a discussion, talking through a scenario, walking through a scenario, repeating a scenario, drilling a scenario, then doing it in sparring. Then all of a sudden, just like magic, it seems to happen on the night.
Listen, after the Valin performance, it was kind of a question. Me and Andy were talking about it. We did the post-show wrap, and we said, well, surely now, after that, you just stay with Ben Davison. You don't really need to go elsewhere. Was that a conversation, and how were those kind of moments after, leading up to you being here now?
Well, there wasn't like a massive conversation. I just think, again, I can't speak for him, and as much as like people were going, oh, Ben's rejuvenated AJ. It's a load of nonsense, do you know what I mean? The skills, he's an Olympic gold medalist. These are all skills that we've had. All we have done is helped him understand these are the tools that you've got that we think will work for that job. These are the tools you've got that we think will work for that job. That's our job, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, Lee Wiley says this about football. Pep Guardiola doesn't tell Cristiano Ronaldo to kick the football a little bit more with his part of the foot. He teaches the team how to play in a system against another team, and that's what we do as coaches at this level.
But the key thing about that is what you just spoke about previously. He has to trust what you're telling him. That's the job in a way, isn't it? It's a psychological process more than anything else. You could tell him that somebody else might tell him in a slightly different way, and he won't buy it. Yeah,
I don't know if he'd want me to say this, but all this, you know, the character that people have got where he's not sure and all these questions and mindset and all that, I don't know where people get it from. So obviously they only see a certain side of him and a certain element and all the rest of it, but very, very smart guy, knows what he wants and very determined. So yeah, I think a lot of people are confused with the type of character and, you know, who he is.
All right, last one before we let you go. What's going to happen in this fight?
Anthony Joshua by knockout.
It's pretty clear, isn't it? It's pretty clear. Thank you so much, Ben Davison. Drop the mic there for me, my friend. Andy, I'll definitely keep you. So, look, we did that post-show wrap. After Anthony Joshua's best performance, we said probably since Povetkin. And we were saying, is it going to be next Parker? Is it going to be maybe Dubois, big winner from that night? The one name we didn't mention was Francis Ngannou.
No, and looking back on it now, we should have really, because he's justifiably in that mix after the performance against Fury, and you know that he will be up for any challenge. And it is, like I said, it is absolutely fascinating to have somebody completely new just emerge, and they've got 10 rounds of boxing to watch of him. Everybody else, you've got hundreds, and you feel like you've known them forever. You feel like there can't be any surprises. But there could be surprises from Ngannou, because he could choose to do things slightly differently. He looks like he's got the skill set to do it more than one way. And I know that one thing they were worried about going into that first fight, although they didn't really say it, was managing the 10 rounds, managing the 30 minutes, because he's not going to be burning nervous energy unnecessarily because of his high-level experience in MMA. So that's always a worry when somebody is in a new situation, that nervous energy, and that can really drain your tank.
And he's massive.
And
he's got massive. Big muscles.
And he's massive as well. So they were, I think, concerned about that, to the point where I think after the fight they felt like they could probably have let him off the leash a bit more, and that there was maybe a bit left at the end, and that they can probably go a bit harder, a bit deeper into rounds this time. So that, you know, that could be, in itself, that would be an interesting difference. But it is just, it's so interesting. Personally, I feel if Joshua can do what he did against Valin, that kind of commitment and intent, I feel like he'll take care of business and he can look good doing it. But at the same time, I thought that would happen with Tyson Fury, and I was wrong. So there's nothing like this sport for making you look like a fool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reason we didn't mention Francis Ngannou as a potential AJ opponent, Ngannou at the time was saying his next fight in boxing will be against Tyson Fury. That's what he thought was going to happen. Then suddenly, Deontay Wilder loses. There's a bit of a collapse in the AJ Wilder fight, and out emerges this monster, this lineal MMA heavyweight champion, the man who gave Tyson Fury a bit of a fright. and here he is. Tell me, there was something, look, it was full of surprises, that fight against Tyson Fury. Something that shocked me. The guy switched southpaw. He is a switch-hitting, heavy-handed heavyweight. What on earth is going on, Andy Clark?
He's just got really good solid fundamentals, and that's maybe something we weren't expecting, because looking back on it now, what I really enjoyed is just some good old-fashioned chicanery where you turn up to the open workout and just deliberately look pretty awful, which is clearly what he did.
Yeah.
But as soon as the bell went and you saw him step into the middle of the ring, good balance, totally calm, could throw a decent shot, got heavy hands, he showed that he got a chin, he wasn't flustered, he was at ease in there. When you marry that with proper technique, then you've got a problem. You've got a problem, because if you catch someone on the top of the head like he did Tyson Fury, that wouldn't always knock somebody down. It could scramble you and take your balance away, from what I'm told. But you looked at it back and you thought, God, is that the kind of punch that should really be knocking Tyson Fury down? But that's just an example of the heavy hands that he's got, and he is a threat, and he will be loving this. He will be absolutely loving it. We'll speak to him later on, I'm sure, but he will be loving this. Just being able to turn around and say, I told you so, I told you also. And now you're probably all going to write me off again. More fool you.
But look, they will be writing him off again. And look, he's been proving doubters wrong his whole life, every step along the way. The man shouldn't be here. I saw a picture that went up about in 2012, Anthony Joshua was winning Olympic gold medal. Francis Ngannou was just sort of trying to get out of where he was. He'd begun his sort of route to come to where he's ended up. It's quite a story. Look, both of these guys have incredible stories, but Francis Ngannou in particular, to suddenly make an impact on the boxing world, to have his first two fights being against Tyson Fury, followed by Anthony Joshua, he believes, followed by Tyson Fury for the undisputed heavyweight title. It's some story.
It's incredible. It is incredible, and he's just good to be around.
Yeah.
You know, I'd never met him before. We were out in Saudi Arabia at the end of last October, and he's just got this vibe and this aura about him that big dogs have. You know, the big game players
well
have.
Said.
He really has.
You also have a bit of that, Andy. I have to say, you've got that big dog vibe. Brought it with you today.
But he's got that.
Yeah.
He's got that. He's got that star quality, and physically he's incredible. He was 272, I think, wasn't he, or 273, something like that, pounds, and Tyson was 4 or 5 pounds heavier, but he was just a block of muscle, a block of sinew and bone and muscle. And you look at the dedication it takes to build that over a number of years and maintain it. He's something else, and it's great to have him. It is great to have him, because I didn't expect it. He had some kind of an amateur background, but I just did not expect it at all, and nor did anybody else, and that's the best thing about it. And Joshua, this is an interesting situation for him, because it's just, as I said, it's so unusual to have somebody appear from absolutely nowhere.
No, he absolutely has appeared from absolutely nowhere. He's very much a player in the heavyweight mix, ranked number 10 with the WBC as well. And look, how can you not take him seriously when he has boxed the best heavyweight in the world and he's given him trouble? Listen, let's not forget, Tyson Fury did win that fight. I thought he won the fight. Once he got back to boxing, he did indeed win the fight. But the moments that he had trouble was when he was trying to push him down, use his normal huge weight advantage. He couldn't do that against Francis Ngannou. Too big, too strong. Anthony Joshua doesn't fight like that. He doesn't try and drag people down. It probably would have helped him against Usyk if he did have that. But how do the tactics differ here?
I think if you're Joshua, you use your natural tools. Your natural tools are the ones that are going to be suited to this job. And to be honest with you, be suited to every job, because if you're 6'5", 6'6", you've got that lovely long wingspan, and you're kind of classically trained, if you like, to throw that jab, long right hand, then you don't ever really need to do much more than that. Just those real simple tools: jab, right hand, left hook. Just 3 punches. That combination can win you almost any fight if you use it correctly, unless you're up against somebody who's incredibly skilled at getting inside that and up onto the inside. If he can utilise that to good effect, then I feel like he could win the fight doing that. He doesn't need to get greedy. You know, that's a word you hear in boxing sometimes from corners, isn't it? During fights, don't get greedy. What you're doing is working, keep doing it. If the stoppage comes, then the stoppage comes. But you don't want to be looking for something that may not be there. And he's experienced now, Anthony. I don't really expect that would be a trap that he would fall into.
No, look, and I'm sure Francis Ngannou, his boxing IQ, it actually seemed all right?
Yeah, very good.
As soon as the first bell went, I think Frank Warren said this, once he saw him shaping up, he was like, oh, okay, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and if you've been watching this for long enough, you know from the way somebody sets up and just how they look and how their balance is and how just how their demeanour is. You know, do they inspire confidence in you or not? Do they look like they belong in there or not? And some people really do.
Fantastic stuff, Andy Clark. Look, we're about to throw to the press conference. Let me just get your view. What were you expecting today? I think they're two pretty respectful guys.
Yeah, I think it'll be cordial. I think it'll be quite light-hearted. I think it'll be fun, actually.
We shall see. Do you know what I'm looking forward to? The face-off. These guys, these two monsters, to be fair, at the weigh-in it will be better because you'll actually see the rocks of muscle that they are. But I'm intrigued what will happen when they meet the eyes of each other, because Anthony Joshua's got in front of him someone that he hasn't, fought a few times before in the amateurs. He hasn't had in as a sparring partner. He's got a guy that gave Tyson Fury a fright and has actually got the hardest punch in the world, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. It's serious.
Yeah, and they'll be circling around each other. They'll want to have a good look at each other.
Okay, fantastic stuff. Let's go over to the presser. The moment, but we're going to keep persevering. We'll hear from Josh Denzel very shortly, but I'll tell you who I think will be the character up there. I think Dewey Cooper, Francis Ngannou's trainer, will have a lot to say.
Now,
we're back now with Josh
this
Denzel.
Historic event and this historic fight night will be brought to you and the fans worldwide by the General Entertainment Authority of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, GIA, in conjunction with Queensberry Promotions, Matchroom Boxing, Gold Star Promotions, Seller, Gimmick Fight Promotions, and 258. Now, at this time, I would like to introduce the fighters to the stage. But coming first, Ngannou's longtime trainer, Dewey Cooper. Welcome, Dewey. Now, next to the stage, long-time promoter of Anthony Joshua, Mr. Eddie Hearn.
Well, you can tell everybody. Yeah, you can tell everybody. Go ahead and tell everybody. I'm the man, I'm the man.
Next to the stage, Hall of Fame promoter, Frank Warren.
Standing in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And the world's gonna know your name. Yeah.
Welcome, Frank.
'Cause you burn with the brightest flame. Yeah.
I think it's time we speak to the fighters. Please welcome the Predator, Francis Ngannou. And last but not least, former two-time heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua. We would like to, at this time, thank the hosts and the people that made all of these huge fight nights that we've seen over the last few months, the last couple of years possible. His Royal Highness King Salman Abdulaziz Al Saud, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and of course the Chairman of the General Entertainment Authority of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Jia, His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh. And I'd like to throw to His Excellency, who's stood up there on the balcony, to say a few words about this historic event.
Come with me. Sorry, I want to speak in Arabic, please. في البداية أحب أرحب بالجميع.
To start with, I would like to welcome everybody tonight.
أتقدم بخالص الشكر لمولاي خادم الحرمين الشريفين حفظه الله.
And I send all my thanks to the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdul Aziz.
ولسمو سيدي رئيس مجلس الوزراء قائدنا الملهم عراب الرؤية داعمنا اللي لولا الله ثم هو ما كنا نقدر نعمل أي شيء من هالشيء.
And my thanks also extend to His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, our guiding and inspiring leader. May God bless them both.
I need from you 3 minutes to talk about important things. احنا حريصين في المملكة العربية السعودية أن نقدم للأسواق مباريات مهمة.
We are in Saudi Arabia take extreme care to present to the markets very important matches.
الجمهور في اعتقادنا أننا نحرص أن يحصل على مباريات قوية بأسعار مميزة.
The fans also would like to receive and have access to important matches in very good prices.
لهذا أنتم تشوفون النوعية هذه من المباريات.
And this is why you see and you are watching and seeing this type of matches being promoted.
أنا أتعامل مع الملاكمين والبروموتر كأخوة لي.
I deal with the boxers, the sportsmen, and their promoters as my brothers.
عندهم أرقامي الخاصة ويتواصلون معي بشكل مباشر.
They all have my private number and deal with me directly.
إحنا بنحاول فكرة جديدة في عالم الملاكمة. أعتقد أنتم تشوفون البوستر هذا اللي مستوحى من ستريت فايتر جيم.
We are trying to impose or present some new form of promotion of this game, and you can see that it is inspired by this type of poster that you can see in front of you, which is inspired by
Street
Fighter game.
أن أيضا بتشوفون الكوميرشال والبوستر للمباراة الكبرى Ring of Fire on 17th of February.
And you also see the posters and the promotion of the biggest fight, which is going to happen on the 17th of February.
Okay.
The Ring of Fire.
You understand now why is Joshua against Ngannou?
I do understand. I don't know, but clearly there is an important match coming up.
You will see the result of this match. It will connect about the result of the 17th of February. This is our idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
Your Excellency.
I hope I will tell all the people said to me, don't talk like this, Ngannou, but I think you will understand me. You know, I look to you as a brother, but I want someone to stop you. I want the boxing. You are قاعد تحوس عالم الملاكمة عندنا.
You know,
keep looking, brother. You haven't found it yet.
The world of boxing to stop you.
Yeah, and I think it will be tough match. You see the last virgin of Joshua. We get him back, and I think it will be something huge. The result of this match, it will go in the future. In 24, we will try with Eddie and Frank to deliver to the market very big fight. This is the important thing. And second, I want to talk about two cards I want to do in 24, and I want to see it. The first card, it's between Frank against Eddie. Each one of them will choose 5 fighters and do night against each other.
Done. We'll do that.
The third things, I want to see Aratora and Bubble, and I want to see it in June, and I will speak with Top Rank, inshallah, about it. All the fans want to see it. In the end, I hope to have big fight, and I want in the end to show Joshua and Ngannou what's waiting for them after the result. Please, can you put it in the screen after the result? Will wait for them after the result of the fight in the 8th of March. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And I hope you enjoy it. Okay, one question.
There is one more question that His Excellency have time for.
Your Excellency, you mentioned about making all these huge events in Saudi Arabia. What's your response to some of the promoters, like Oscar De La Hoya, saying that some fights he's not sure should go to Saudi Arabia?
We will miss him. Thank you.
Definitely a fantastic vision for boxing over the coming years. Now, back in October, we witnessed an incredible back-and-forth contest between Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury, where I think to the shock of many in the boxing fraternity, Francis Ngannou gave Tyson Fury one of the toughest tests of his career. And safe to say it was a superhuman effort as a novice boxer in his first professional fight. And his opponent, Anthony Joshua, coming into this bout on the back of a spiteful, one-sided victory against an opponent that many believed could be a banana skin in the road to regaining his heavyweight titles. There's bound to be fireworks. Now, to start this off, I want to go to Hall of Fame promoter Frank Warren. Could you tell us a little bit more about your role, Riyadh Season's role, and His Excellency's role in delivering these incredible fights that we've seen over the last few months and years?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say a thank you to the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, the General Entertainment Authority of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Chairman, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, our co-promoters, Sella, Gold Star, Matchroom Boxing, as well as 258 Management, and Jimmick for making this event, Knockout Chaos, happening. This is the 4th event of the Riyadh season, and just saying how it is, if it wasn't for His Excellency and his team and the support of the Riyadh season of Saudi Arabia, these fights just would not be happening. That's a fact. It doesn't matter which way you want to dress it up. He has been instrumental in making these fights happen, the previous fights, and instrumental in getting Eddie and myself sitting at the same table. And we've just made another big fight that's going to happen. His best against our best. We're going to make that event happen. This is just what boxing fans have been crying out for years. They've been begging for us to make the fights, which sometimes have been not financially viable for us to make happen. But now it's changed. It's happening so quickly, so fast, and it's one after one great fight, followed up by fantastic undercards, brilliant undercards. I mean, it just keeps coming and coming and coming. We are in probably the golden age of boxing, world boxing, without a doubt. And if anybody doesn't want to be on board, then there are 4. I'm very disappointed that Oscar should say what he said. He should know better than that. This is great for the sport. The fights are happening, and it's down to His Excellency and his team. And I am, for me, at my age, I'm 72 next month, I've never seen anything or been involved in anything like this in boxing. This is just brilliant. And if you're a boxing fan, you're in boxing heaven. So from me personally, and I think from everybody in boxing, thank you, Your Excellency, for all you've done to help and make these events happen.
Now, Frank, I think this is a fight that maybe even just a few months ago, I think not many of us expected to be at the table seeing Anthony Joshua against Francis Ngannou. But with Francis's incredible performance against Tyson, and of course Anthony Joshua coming off the back of 2 consecutive knockout victories, there's bound to be fireworks in this one.
There will be, you know. I'll say how it is. But, you know, prior to the last fight with Tyson and Francis, I genuinely thought that it would be a tough fight for a short period of time. But I then thought that Tyson would get the better of him and win the fight very early on. But it turned out that Francis brought something to the boxing ring that I certainly never expected, and that was that he could actually box. We knew he was a tough competitor. We knew he could punch. We know that he's going to be a handful on the inside because that's the way MMA fighters fight. But he was more than that. He was a switch hitter. He got his timing right, and he put Tyson, I think, through one of the toughest fights he's had for a long time. He put him on the floor. I will say I generally also felt that Tyson had an off night, but came through it all. But, you know, this guy making a debut like that surprised everybody. Everybody was surprised. And I think AJ, I'm going to take my hat off to him.
Except me.
Except for you, that's true. And your team, they've done a great job. But I take my hat off to AJ for taking this fight because he's fighting somebody. I know now there's video footage and you know, you can see what Francis has done in a boxing ring, which Tyson didn't have the benefit of. But, you know, what has Francis learned from his first fight? Is he going to be a better fighter? Because he's going to look at things and feel that he could have done things differently that he can bring to the ring next time round. So I think for AJ, I think he's I think he's going to be in a tough fight. I think this is knockout chaos because I think it will be a knockout. They both got bombs in their hands, and it's going to be interesting to see how the fight develops. You know, I do think it will be, as the bell goes, I think because of their styles, it will be explosive. So for the fans, it's going to be something extra special. And for the winner, as His Excellency said, the big fight's happening on the 17th of February, part again of the Riyadh season with Tyson and Usyk. The winner of that, would we like to see him with the winner of this fight? Everybody in this room would love to see that. Everybody in boxing would love to see that. So everybody's got something to aim for. And it's huge. It's a huge moment in time for boxing. Heavyweight boxing has not seen this happen in my lifetime. Big fights like this happening one after the other. So it's a fantastic moment.
Eddie, I know you enjoy doing an interview, which sometimes gets you into a little bit of trouble. You were one of the first people to say you weren't convinced about Francis Ngannou's boxing ability, but after the Tyson Fury fight, you were very quick to give him his flowers and commend him. But you still believe there are levels between Francis Ngannou and your man, Anthony Joshua?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, just want to echo what Frank said. You know, thanks to the Crown Prince and, of course, His Excellency. This is like, I likened this earlier, this whole experience to Championship Manager, right? Imagine being the biggest fan in the world of boxing and having the ability to sit in a room and put fights together at the drop of the hat that the fans want to see. And, you know, in just 5 months, we have seen Fury against Ngannou, the Day of Reckoning card, Fury against Usyk, AJ against Ngannou, and so much more to come. This is such an incredible opportunity for boxing, and it's being delivered. And I know that, you know, we talk about His Excellency a lot, but you're talking about someone who has an incredible passion for the sport of boxing, someone that's unbelievably knowledgeable. I mean, you know, I thought that Ngannou against Fury was going to be a mismatch. And he told me off, he said, you're going to be wrong. And I said Callum Smith was going to beat Beterbiev, and he told me I was wrong. And it shows that he knows his boxing. I met Francis Ngannou, we were just talking, maybe just over or under a year ago in Las Vegas. He told me about his ambition to be in big boxing events. You know, firstly, I met a guy with an unbelievable story. I met a guy with a very strong mind. But I didn't take him seriously, if I'm honest. I just have never known anybody to waltz into a sport and compete, and in my opinion, and it was very close, in my opinion, beat Tyson Fury that night. It's never been done before. You know, he may be unlucky that he's not sitting here as the world lineal heavyweight champion on his professional debut. Yeah. So now, as we said earlier, we take him very seriously. And after that fight, which we give him unbelievable props for, I said the biggest fight out there, outside of Fury against Usyk, is Joshua against Ngannou. And we'd already signed the Deontay Wilder-Joshua fight. And as soon as that show finished on December 23rd, His Excellency said to myself and Frank, we need to talk. What is the biggest event we can do on March the 8th? And the answer was this. In my opinion, you have the two biggest fights in the heavyweight division happening within 3 weeks of each other in Saudi Arabia. It is an incredible opportunity. For AJ, as Frank says, there's big jeopardy in this fight. This man is going to be the undisputed heavyweight world champion. I truly believe it. But he's doing it the difficult way, going through obstacles and what some might call immovable objects in this man to my left. The giant of a man, the former UFC heavyweight world champion, but now a guy that we take very, very seriously in the sport of boxing. This guy's on a roll. He's working with a great team, and we just cannot wait. This is a dream opportunity for the sport of boxing, and we're also invested to give the fans incredible nights, and this is another fantastic fight for Riyadh season.
100%. Now, we've spoken about him. It's time to speak to somebody who knows him very well, his trainer, Dewey Cooper. Now, Dewey, your man shocked the world, but didn't necessarily shock your team in that incredible performance against Tyson Fury. That must give you huge confidence going into this fight against Anthony Joshua.
First of all, greetings to the media here in London. Assalamu alaikum to Your Excellency, Turki al-Sheikh. It was no surprise to us, the Tyson Fury fight. We told you all from day one what was going to happen. And the same thing applies here. We expect fire, but at the end of the day, the flaming fist of Francis will finish Joshua March 8 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Nice and succinct. I enjoyed that. Now let's speak to Francis Ngannou. Francis, your pre-fight confidence was vindicated with your performance against Tyson Fury. Now, when you said you left the UFC to have the biggest fights, with the biggest paydays, the biggest purses, on the biggest stage, it doesn't get much bigger than this, does it?
No. First of all, I want to thank everybody here to show up, to come here and make this press conference great. Thank you to my brother, the Excellency, for one more time again putting me in this position, you know, to live my dream, have all those great experiences, such as the one that I had in Riyadh 2 months ago. It was amazing. So hopefully this will be the same thing and finish the same way. I've been sitting here, listening to people talking, and even Eddie praising me, which I appreciate that. But at the same time, I'm not sure if he's honest or if he just want to get me sleep on his guy, which that's not going to happen. I'm just a beginner out here that's gonna train really hard and do everything and come as an underdog to win the fight. So I don't take my last fight as a reference and think that I get this done and think that I get everything. You know, I know exactly where I am at. I'm just a beginner, and I'm definitely going to come up better and, yes, get better and better. So that's that's how I see things. I'm getting prepared for a tough, hard fight. Yes, the Tyson Fury fight was great. It was awesome, but that's now in the past, and I have a new challenge in front of me, and I take it even more serious now than before, because now I think there is something more on the line, which is probably the undisputed. So let's see. Maybe I will do something that nobody has done before, and I really believe that I have the tools of doing that. Starting off having a win against AJ on March 8th in Riyadh, which is going to be a big fight. Not an easy one, but a possible one. And I'm going to take that.
Francis, you haven't pulled any punches in the build-up to this fight already. You've come out and said, I've heard that AJ doesn't have a chin. I'm going to test that out. Is that your plan? Is it seek and destroy?
Well, I'm going to fight him, so what do you think I'm going to do? Is to look for his chin. I mean, that's what happened in the fight, in case you in the fight, you're trying to hit somebody in the chin or wherever you can hit him, right? And then, yes, I heard that he doesn't have a chin. I don't know if it's true or not. We're going to find out. I hope I had an opportunity to test that out. That's my wish. That's what I'm wishing for.
It's time to bring in Anthony Joshua, unfazed by those comments at the moment. AJ, I'm sure, as for you as it was for many of us here, it's a slight curveball to be sat here with Francis Ngannou on that end of the table. I know Wilder was a potential opponent after that day of reckoning fight. That kind of went out of the window. What was your first thoughts when you heard of Francis Ngannou as a potential opponent for you?
No problem.
Just not... It was you'll fight anybody. I know you're chasing belts. I know you want to be three-time heavyweight champion of the world. Is this part of that plan?
Every fight leads to somewhere. So this fight is my everything, my soul, my spirit, my mind, my body. And we'll see where it leads me. But right now, I'm not thinking about any championship belts or anything. My main focus is Francis. And to be fair, getting through intense, focused training camp, because realistically, how I train is how I fight. So if I get victory in my training camp, I'm sure I'll get victory on the night. So that's all I'm focused on. Right now, we're going to put the belts on hold because my main focus is getting through training camp and getting to the fight successfully.
It feels like you and Ben have really gelled this through the last camp and through now. You know, people are saying, I know you don't like to hear people say, oh, it's the old AJ is back, etc. What is it like working with him, and how have you found that going into this fight?
It's really good working with him, the whole team at the academy. They've helped a lot. I still speak with Derek James in the States, but being home and having someone just as good, like I'm just searching for greatness, really, continuously searching for greatness, how I can elevate myself, push forward in every aspect of my game, and this is just another challenge. And during these challenges, I find out so much about myself, even though I already know who I am. I know I'm going to discover some new things about myself, but things that can take me to higher heights.
No doubt. Now, before his boxing debut, he was an unknown quantity. Now you've seen him for 10 rounds. You know, there is footage of him online you can actually look at and watch now. What does he bring to the table that you got to watch out for?
I won't say too much, but he brings 2 arms, a body, like every other fighter does. But it's just his mind that's different to everyone. Everyone has their own unique, like, they're unique in their own way. But in terms of the frame and the makeup of someone, he's seen people like me. I've seen people like him many a times before. But it's just his mind that I'll have to conquer in the ring. You have to take someone's soul. You have to take their spirit. And I'm looking forward to the challenge for sure. And that's it, really. It's going to be good. It's going to be explosive. I've got many ways to skin a cat. I can counter punch. He can counter punch. We can both box, as he's proven himself too. And we can both trade. And it was going to be a good fight. And shout out to His Excellency as well, my promoter, my whole team, 258, for getting me in this position to showcase why I'm the top heavyweight in the UK. And I'm not really too concerned about the world. I'm trying to conquer where I live. Like, I just want to conquer here and make everyone know that I'm the one who puts boxing on the map.
There's the riches of heavyweight around, especially in the UK. Now, to finish off, before we go to the face-off, I would like to give the final word to Eddie Hearn. Eddie.
No, thank you, Josh, and just to replicate what everybody said here, thank you for all turning up and being part of a huge event. Like I said, the ability to sit with His Excellency and Frank and brainstorm about potential fights for the kingdom is a blessing. And it's been very difficult to go through this press conference with the thought of Matchroom versus Queensberry and the 5-fight dust-up that's going to ensue later in the year. But as a fight fan, although Callum Smith suffered defeat at the weekend, to hear him talk about Bivol against Beterbiev, I think everybody in this room, these are the kind of matchups that we've been missing in boxing that can just happen so naturally when you've got someone who is so passionate and has the ability to make them happen. So, welcome to Francis and his team, and Anthony, and to hear people talk about these potential matchups in a heavyweight division. And like I said, if you can imagine the winner of this fight facing the winner of Fury against Usyk, and it's been a long, long dream of Anthony's and all of the teams to become undisputed champion. I know his focus is just on Francis Ngannou, but to have those opportunities is incredible. And get ready for an unbelievable event that these guys are taking care of on February the 17th. Fury against Usyk, Joshua and Ngannou, all within 3 weeks of each other. Just incredible opportunity for our sport, and thank you for the passion and the vision.
Boxing is definitely in an incredible place, with thanks to Riyadh Season and everyone who's put this together. It's time for the face-off.
Well, there we have it. We've got two absolute man-mountains who are about to face off. I think we suspected it might be somewhat respectful between these guys. It's not Tyson Fury up there calling people dossers, but what did you make of it?
It was interesting, I thought, because Ngannou, he's got a kind of wry smile about him, but he's very focused. You can tell that he weighs up his words and he really means what he says. He's got that realism, that matter-of-factness that all top-level performers have. Yeah. They can boil things down to very simple terms. He's not disrespecting the question. It's just, we're going to have a fight. I am going to try and punch him in the chin. He's going to try and punch me in my chin. I'm not saying that he can't take my shots, but we'll see. That's what this is when it comes down to it. Maybe they'll ramp things up a bit during fight week, but the mentality of both there, I think, is not to give too much away. I think they will be looking forward to having a look into each other's eyes.
No, I think so too. I think one of the interesting things just said there as well by Anthony Joshua, he's had all these different opponents over the years. What stands out to him about Francis Ngannou is, in fact, his mind. Now, that's probably not something that stands out to everyone else. People talk about how he's the heaviest puncher in the world ever. Joshua's picked out his mind, so I wonder what he's going to see now.
Well, ultimately, at this level particularly, that is what it's about, because you're going in there and you're looking to break the other person's will. You have to try and break them mentally. You might catch them early with a big shot, as we were discussing with Ben. You might do that, but you cannot rely on that. The other way to win is to break them down, as I say, is to break their spirit, break their will, steal their soul. That's going to be very difficult to do to somebody like Francis Ngannou, and that's what he's referring to there. So that tells you in itself that he has total and utter respect for him, because that mental fortitude, that can take you so far.
Absolutely. Look, he's got that look of a guy who isn't going to get discouraged if he takes a couple of shots. He's been kicked in the head. Make no doubt about that. He's got elbowed in the head. He takes a lot of shots. He's a durable guy, and he can punch very, very hard. All I'm seeing there is a very, very confident Francis Ngannou, and by the way, a very confident Anthony Joshua.
Yes, 100%. I like the poise of the pair of them. They look in tremendous condition as well. They're not that far out from the fight. These are two people who have probably never been out of shape a day in their lives, certainly not since they pulled gloves of varying descriptions on. It's just not in their makeup to allow that to happen. They are two incredibly impressive representatives of the human race, aren't they, those two, as physical specimens?
Six-packs upon six-packs. We did get a handshake at the end there as well between Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou, and a bit of a wry smile as they now hopefully will get hold of Francis Ngannou. But fantastic stuff. I mean, I just want to see them fight. That's what I want to see now. I'm so curious about this. What's going to happen if Francis Ngannou... Look, I think this is one of the key questions heading into all of this. What happens if Francis Ngannou lands that shot on the one that he landed on Tyson Fury on Anthony Joshua? And actually, let's ask him. I think he's coming in.
Yes, I think indeed he'll have a better answer for us.
Mr. Francis Ngannou, very, very welcome. You have just faced off with Anthony Joshua. How did he look to you? What did you think?
He's just a face-off, He was just a face-off. I mean, quite intense, but we were in Barcelona, and then we have basically like something close to a face-off. So it is not the first time.
Well, I guess one of the questions heading into this fight that everyone's asking, if Francis Ngannou lands the punch that he landed on Tyson Fury on Anthony Joshua, what happens? What do you think happens?
Well, if I land a punch, a knockout will happen. It's hard to say like the one that I landed, because I didn't really land on Tyson Fury. I think it was a punch that hit his shoulder and then slide up of his head. So it wasn't a clean shot. So can't speak exactly like of the precision, the force that was in that punch.
And Andy, we were talking about Francis Ngannou's mental fortitude as well. He's been here before. He knows what to expect.
Yeah, of course. And it was interesting that, to me, that Joshua picked out your mental toughness, basically, your mentality as being such a strong thing for you. Do you feel in elite level sport that more than technique or more than boxing ability, it is that mentality that wins you the fight?
I think for me, the mentality, the mindset, the mental is the biggest part of the game. To be able to trust yourself, to believe in yourself, even in the most adversity, the biggest adversity. When you believe in yourself, I think that's the most important thing. I personally don't think that I come here and then all those people that I'm fighting, whether it's Tyson Fury or AJ, that, I have the best skills, I'm a best boxer, I'm going to do this. This guy been fighting since when they were kids. They've been doing boxing since they were kids, and this is just my beginning. If it's not like my personality, my strength, my mindset, what else do I'm bringing on the table? If we are going in the fight that we cannot take somebody down, we can kick somebody, and then I'm basically just doing this for the first time. So at the end of the day, I really supposedly have nothing to offer statistic-wise, but I believe that I can do it. I can fight no matter what, and that's how I do this.
Just quickly, Francis, what did you make of Eddie Hearn up there? He seemed to give you your flowers. Of course, in the build-up to Fury and Ngannou, there weren't many flowers going for you. What did you think of that?
Eddie is a promoter, so that's what he's good at, what he does. He knows how to promote a fight, and then at some point, I don't want to let any of this from me. I tend to have a lot of praise now. Okay, from one fight you have become the guy. No, yeah, he was great. I still believe that I won that fight, and even though if I had walked away with the official win, that wouldn't mean that I get this now. I'm not fool. I'm just getting here, and that was my whole experience in boxing. Is first round. It's 10 rounds, so I can be sleeping on people that have hundreds of rounds under their belts.
Francis, fantastic speaking to you. We're going to let the lovely Dora take you away, and we'll crack on. Thank you very much,
okay.
Francis Ngannou. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks.
This is a man, Francis Ngannou, a man mountain, who has been calling me Dave for a long time.
It's just his accent. You keep saying that, but I think it's just the way he says it.
Look, what is so impressive is that he's such a huge man, such an intimidating presence. The guy is absolutely huge, and yeah, he's got the mentality to go with all of that.
Yeah, he has, and when you speak to fighters, to top performers particularly, they get used to the situation that they're in, and what they don't do is waste and invest too much emotional energy 4 or 5 weeks out from a fight. He's very matter of fact. He's ready. He's just ready to buckle down, get into training camp.
Well, delighted to be joined by Hall of Fame boxing promoter Frank Warren. Frank seemed fairly respectful up there. What did you make of it? And you, of course, you stood between the two giants. Tell us what you're thinking.
Well, they're both very, very big men. I think they were saying that he's the biggest heavyweight that AJ's faced, which is quite interesting. What do I make of it? I think it's going to be a real, real tough fight. I think it's a tough fight for both of them. It is going to be knockout chaos. There's no doubt about that. I genuinely think it will be a very exciting fight whilst it lasts. I really do. I think they both are big punchers, and it'd be interesting to see if and what happens when Ngannou, if he hits him on the chin, if he catches AJ. That is going to be interesting.
These shows in Riyadh, all part of Riyadh season, every time we go there, when we come on the plane back, something's happened. Something's happened that shifts the landscape. The Tyson Fury and Ngannou fight, we learnt a lot. The Day of Reckoning, Deontay Wilder got upset. Yeah. So much happens. It's quite a time. Because they're big men, and big men, they throw big punches. And if one of those catches, it changes the fight. It can take the fight out of someone. It can knock them out. And that is what has happened. And there'll be more
more bumps in the road with his heavyweight situation on the way. It's no foregone conclusion. Nothing's a foregone conclusion with these guys. It's exciting times, and as I say, I genuinely think we're going to. Well, we're seeing these fights happening. They are as you know. Was it 6 months ago, a year ago? Yeah. Who would have even thought about this? And it's getting bigger and it's getting better. It's just fabulous.
I'm loving the Street Fighter computer game vibe that Tukiel Al-Sheikh was talking about. But back to Ngannou, how much do you think he can grow from that first fight? Because I think one thing they look back on now and feel like they could have done is it's gone a bit harder because they were maybe a bit worried about managing the 30 minutes.
Well, that may be the case. I mean, he had learned from the fight. I'm sure he would have. Like I said, you know, AJ's going into the fight having seen him in action in a boxing ring, so he's got that knowledge which Tyson didn't have going into the fight. And as I said before, you know, you knew he could punch, you knew he's a tough guy, you knew on the inside, it was going to be very difficult to pull him about or, you know, try and maul him and so forth, because that's his game. What we didn't know is that he could box. So now that's established, we can see that. For me, the intriguing thing is, what has he learned from his first fight in a boxing ring? What does he look back and say? You just said what I mean. Obviously, must come from the trainer. What they would have done different. Well, now they know that they know what it's like to be in. He knows what it's like to do 10 rounds. So what effect's that going to have on him? You know, AJ's a totally different fighter than Tyson is. He's got different strengths, weaknesses, whatever you want to call them. Can he exploit them? And that's going to be the interesting thing. One thing is, when they fought Tyson, and I think Tyson had an off night as well, but when they fought Tyson, they've done their homework, and he's a switch hitter. He can box a southpaw stance.
Who would have thought it?
Well, who would have thought he'd have shaped up as he shaped up? He wasn't square on like an MMA fighter normally is. He actually shaped up like a boxer, and boxed. And he did box.
Is Anthony Joshua facing a more dangerous version now of Francis Ngannou, now that he's got that 10 rounds in the bank, now that he knows how to play with his energy, peak at different times during the fight, maybe throw more shots, more meaningful shots? Has he got a more dangerous Ngannou? Was it? What do you think?
Well, again, they have the luxury, like they had with Tyson, of studying him, and they've studied AJ, and whereas Tyson was undefeated, he has losses on his record. So he will, if I was his trainer, I'd be looking to see how I could exploit what was the downfall in these fights that he lost. We know what he's good at doing. We know he's a big puncher. He looked very good in his last fight. He'd done everything that was asked of him. And now he's got to negate the strengths and exploit what the weaknesses are. And is he capable of doing that? We'll find out.
His Excellency up there, of course, sounds like he's got quite the vision. Look, it's Vision 2030. It's all about this. But he talked about a Queensberry versus Matchroom night. Have you had a chance to speak to Eddie sort of off camera?
Yeah, we're going to do it.
Okay.
We're going to do it. So his best against our best.
Any fights in mind? Anything you can tease?
I want a big wager on it. I want to back our guys. I want to back us. I mean, what we need is an odd number of fights so we get a winner.
Be a big night, Andy?
No, when he was stood up on the balcony there, Tukiel Al-Sheikh, and came out with that, I was just rubbing my hands because I was wondering to myself, has he just sprung this on Eddie and Frank, or did they know about this, or what the crack was?
This is boxing heaven. You know, for the fans, they're getting everything they want. Everything, because it's being made to happen because of Saudi, His Excellency, all of the people involved in this. It's made it happen, and it's the catalyst to make it happen. So that's brilliant for the fans. It's brilliant for the fans, and I'm delighted as such a boxing fan. That adds to it.
What a time to be a boxing fan. We also saw an undisputed belt up there on the screen as well. Sounds like that's going to be on the line for Fury Usyk. And then His Excellency talked about the winner of that.
Well, whoever wins the fight's got the belt, hasn't he? It's not one that any governing body's going to take it away if they don't have their mandatories. The winner is the undefeated. Sorry, he's the unilateral champion.
Wow.
You know, he's the unified champion. So anybody who fights him will be fighting for that right.
Yeah, it's something that boxing fans have been calling for a while, just a bit more clarity. I've never had a problem with more than one sanctioning body and numerous belts because we get unifications and there's all sorts of other things that can happen. Fighters get a lot of opportunities, but particularly do you feel it's more important in the top division than anywhere else that we have that clarity where people can name the heavyweight champion of the world as they always used to be able to.
Well, no, there has been times in the past where it's not been the case. You know, for years it didn't happen, did it? Between Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe, that fight never happened. We all wanted it, and it didn't happen. When Lennox Lewis fought Mike Tyson, it was like 10 or 15 years after it should have happened. These fights are now happening, and they're coming thick and fast. And at the end of the day, when you've got something like this, a unified belt on the line, that's what they'll be fighting for.
Do you feel like Anthony Joshua, by taking this fight, is kind of, there's like an indirect going at Tyson Fury? In his last fight, he beat Otto Wallin, and he stopped Otto Wallin. Of course, Otto Wallin went the distance with Tyson Fury, a horrendous cut. If he now stops Francis Ngannou, isn't this a kind of, hey Tyson, I did what you couldn't do?
Well, look, you know, Otto Wallin, it was two different fights together. You know, Tyson suffered a really bad cut, and he was lucky to get through it with that cut. It was a dreadful cut. But he got through it and won, as he always does, and he done the same with Ngannou. He gone through it which was an off night against a guy who obviously done his homework and come to fight. Of course, people will make that comparison, but the best way to find out who's the best, fight each other.
When can we expect any details of undercards for both of these two that are coming up?
Very soon, within the next day or so. They're cracking cards, by the way. I'll tell you what, the cards, all the fights on there are standalone fights.
Absolutely fantastic. Frank, thank you so much. I'm sure
Pleasure as always.
there's so many people here who want to talk to you, so go and talk to them. Thank you very much, Frank Warren.
Pleasure.
You're going to be here a while, I think.
Yeah, I'll grab that off you. There's Hall of Fame boxing promoter Frank Warren, and what His Excellency said about a Queensbury versus Matchroom night, very interesting. Sounds like he's up for it. Eddie, I mean, they shook hands on it up there. There's so many big nights to come in Riyadh.
There really are, and this is where we are now, and it's fantastic to be around at a time like this, to be honest with you, because you need some luck with your career sometimes, don't you, as to what happens and when. And this is a period that I just never anticipated myself. I never expected to see Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn at the same table, and I know we saw it before Christmas when other fights were announced, but have them sitting next to each other right in the middle there, turning around and kind of half chatting to each other and shaking hands, and that's just not something we thought could happen. You know, there's a lot of cold wars in boxing, and some of them never really thaw. It doesn't matter how much kind of diplomacy you try and employ, there are just divides that can't be bridged. But that one has been, and it's good to see. It's really, really good to see, because you've got two top operators working together. And it's a rarity. It's a rarity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is a rarity. And listen, what I asked Frank about there was AJ kind of indirectly going at Tyson Fury. I think Eddie Hearn made it pretty clear when this fight was first talked about, hey, if Anthony Joshua beats Francis Ngannou, if he knocks Francis Ngannou out, he's just knocked out Otto Wallin as well. That's two guys that Tyson couldn't knock out. The fight that people have been dreaming about, fantasising about for so long, has been AJ against Fury. This is AJ saying, hey, I've just done something you couldn't do, come and fight me. It sounds like that feels like a bit of a plan here.
Yeah, I think so. I know that people talk about a rematch clause between Fury and Usyk, and as I understand it, it's at both ends, so it would happen come what may, but I don't think that would necessarily be the case. I think, let's say Fury beats Usyk, big if, let's say he does, and Anthony Joshua beats Francis Ngannou, then even should there be that clause, I feel like what would happen is that they would make that fight, Fury against Joshua, with Usyk guaranteed the winner. I mean, that would be an obvious solution to that kind of scenario. I'm not privy to the contract, so I don't know the actual, totally certain that rematch scenario. But what they're proving is that they want to make the biggest fights. And what they also know is that you can have best laid plans in boxing, but they could go wrong, because Absolutely. They nearly did in that fight between Fury and Ngannou. That nearly scuppered Fury Usyk, and then Deontay Wilder got beat by Joseph Parker, and Joshua Wilder falls out of bed. So I think that, plus the massive ambition they've already shown and ability to get these fights on, will mean that if they both win, Fury and Joshua, mid-February, early March, they will look to make that fight next. I mean, I would be astonished if they didn't.
Well, look, when people are talking about Tyson Fury against Ngannou, they talk about maybe Tyson not being at his best. Frank said that, you know, he had an off night. Tyson actually is the only guy really that I've heard saying, no, do you know what? I did give it my all. I did train my hardest for that. It was just a great performance from Ngannou. He's given Ngannou his flowers, but generally within boxing, people are saying that wasn't really Tyson Fury in there. But what if it was? What if Ngannou really is that good?
Oh, that's a good question. I've not really thought about that, because I walked away from that night tremendously impressed with Francis Ngannou, but feeling that we'd seen a very subpar Tyson Fury. And when he says that he trained hard for the fight, you have to take people at their word. You know, who am I to just turn around and say, no, that's a lie? I believe him. But what I don't think is that he believed that Ngannou was the threat that he turned out to be. And if you go into any arena at all, to be honest with you, and you're in a one-on-one challenge of almost any description, if you don't feel like the person opposite you is capable of beating you, if when you put your head on the pillow you don't really think that, then it means that you don't bring the same intensity to your training. It was interesting to hear Anthony talk there about basically, if I have a successful training camp, I will win the fight. Fighters talk about this a lot. A successful camp, a good camp, is there basically to try and banish doubt, or keep doubt as much under control as you possibly can, so that you go to that ring knowing in your own mind that you've done everything that you can possibly do. And what drives you to do that is that edge of fear that this could go wrong, that you could lose, that it could all come crashing down around your ears. If you don't have that, you don't push that extra bit in that sprint. You don't do that extra 0.1%. And at this level, that is what is the dividing line. That's what I think happened there. But it's an interesting one to consider. You know, what if actually Ngannou really is that top level guy?
Who knows? Who knows? Listen, Anthony Joshua was meant to fight Deontay Wilder. That was meant to be announced after Wilder beat Parker and Joshua beat Wallin. You talk about best laid plans. So he was going to fight the biggest puncher in boxing. He's now fighting the biggest puncher in the world. He'll still have the fear, right?
Yeah, absolutely he will, because what you have to remember with Anthony Joshua as well is that Andy Ruiz at Madison Square Garden. Now, I've never really spoken to him about it in depth, and it's probably something that you wouldn't really get into if you were him until you were retired. You know, boxers, for obvious reasons, all athletes, they can tell the truth more when they've retired. I wouldn't be surprised if in years to come he says, you know what, I didn't really believe that Andy Ruiz could beat me. Exactly what I was just talking about. So it's happened to him. He knows, you know, what can go wrong. He knocks him down with a beautiful left hook, and he stepped in to finish him, as you would. And then he got clipped and everything changed. He knows what can happen in there. He knows that no matter how well you prepare, that can still happen. So there's no way there's going to be any kind of complacency here. Not a chance.
Do you think he'll commit? Will he commit to his shots? Because that was the criticism after the Usyk fights, actually even sometimes during the Usyk fights, was that he wasn't fully committing anymore. We saw that in the Jermaine Franklin fight, Helenius fight. Eventually he uncorked an absolute banger on him. Wallin, he did let the hands go, but people are saying, oh, maybe that's because he knew Wallin as well. With the danger factor that comes from Francis Ngannou, with the fact that he has previously floored arguably the best heavyweight in the world, that's what a lot of people call Tyson Fury. I think he is number one right now. The fact that that has happened, he'll have that danger factor, right?
There's always that danger factor, and I've been talking to people a lot about this recently, and committing to the punch, committing to what you're doing, it does mean that you hold your feet for that split second longer, and it gives your opponent that split second longer to do something to you. But not committing is much more dangerous. Okay, you put yourself in harm's way because it's heavyweight boxing and they're all capable of cleaning each other out. But if you don't commit, if you're pulling off the punch almost as soon as you throw it because you're afraid of what's coming back, that shows that you are not where you need to be mentally. Everybody agrees on that. Literally every single person I've spoken to. So committing, yes, it's a gamble, yes, it's a risk, but it's not as dangerous as not committing. It's just as simple as that. And he did it against Wallin, and I absolutely expect to see him do it against Francis Ngannou. It doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean being gung-ho. If you wander into the middle of the ring at this level and start swinging punches apropos of nothing, you will get slaughtered. It's as simple as that. So there has to be a method behind it. There has to be patience behind it, technique behind it. He's got all of those things. You know, you can be incredibly aggressive in a controlled way. That's basically what boxing is.
So Ngannou now, I mean, ranks number 10 by the WBC. He's knocked down Tyson Fury. He's lost a split decision to Tyson Fury. He's the lineal champion of MMA. How do we treat Francis Ngannou now? Is this guy, like, what is it? Is he a heavyweight contender now? Is that how we introduce him? Because if you have a fight like that against the best heavyweight in the world, you're a contender, right?
By definition, you have to be, but it's really. I've been pondering this myself, basically ever since the end of October. Like, where is Ngannou now? And maybe I spent too much time trying to work out where Fury was at and quantify it that way. But we saw what we saw, which is somebody who can box, who's got really good balance, who's got that rock-solid mentality, who does have good enough fundamentals to be able to make that mentality count. Because if he didn't have the good enough basics, it wouldn't matter how mentally strong he was. You just haven't really got the tools to do the job. But if you've got a certain level of skill and athleticism, which he has, then what it comes down to really is the other stuff, and the other stuff between your ears, he has that, and we know he has that. So I feel like off the back of that fight against Fury, you have to describe him as heavyweight title contender. You have to.
You also have to describe him as the man who was on one side of the ring opening up Riyadh season, and now he's proved to be an integral part of Riyadh season because he's out there again. We're going to hear from Eddie Hearn very shortly. I believe he's going to be joining us. Very interested to pick his brains about his kind of U-turn and what happened around Fury versus Ngannou. He was kind of poo-pooing Ngannou, but now he has to respect him.
Yeah, he does, and I'm totally fine with that kind of outrageous flip-flopping, because we see it, it's one of the most entertaining things about boxing is that people do it all of the time. That fantastic, Bob Arum line when he was called out on something. But yesterday I was lying, whereas today I'm telling the truth, and everyone does it. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's required of you, I think, really, if you're a promoter, and it's fun. I enjoy that side of it. I really enjoy that side of it.
He has to commit to his answers, and he always does. And he's going to join us now, Mr. Eddie Hearn. How are we, sir?
Very good, thank you. Very good. I was just trying to get over the excitement of the 5v5.
Yeah.
Queensbury. I said, this could be bigger than the Undisputed Heavyweight World Championship. No, amazing. Great press conference and another incredible turnout. And what a time for boxing. Within 5 months we've seen Fury and Ngannou, the day of reckoning, Fury against Usyk, and of course Joshua against Ngannou now, March the 8th. And the talk of Bivol Beterbiev, it just doesn't stop, and this is exactly what we've wanted for so long.
You were stood in the middle of those two giants, those mountains. What was the feeling up there?
I mean, just like two incredible, like you said, the best word, mountains, atoms. I mean, Francis Ngannou was talking, I was looking at him thinking, look at the size of your head, your neck. I turned to AJ and I thought, actually, you look like a middleweight compared to this guy. It's the first time actually AJ has ever competed with anyone who is remotely the same in terms of frame and mass. This guy's bigger. So we hear the stories about how strong he is. We hear the stories about how hard he can punch. I still find it difficult to subscribe to. I don't believe you can just stroll into the sport and beat the elite, but he so nearly did it against what many regard as the best heavyweight in the world. So we take him very, very seriously. It's a fight full of jeopardy, but one that if you use your brain and you use your skill and your speed, I believe you should win.
Neither one of them, though, has been on the cover of Men's Health recently.
Well, look, if they continue their search for greatness, they will get there.
It's always interesting to kind of get a gauge of where they're at these press conferences a good few weeks out, because generally fighters are a bit more relaxed, and you just know from listening to Anthony that he looks at Ngannou and he feels like he's got good enough fundamentals to be a challenge, but that mentally he's got what it takes. He knows that mentally he's got what it takes, and that this is a guy, if I'm going to break his will, it's going to be a tough job.
And how do you break that will when you know the backstory, when you know what this guy went through to get to where he is today? This is a serious dude. When you're talking about, going through countries and through rivers and seas to get to where he needs to be to achieve his dream. This is a man full of resilience. This is a man full of strength. This is a man full of will. And you have to break that will. AJ summed it up personally. You've got to break his soul and break his will. But you do that with force and speed. Because doesn't matter how much will you've got, when you get hit hard on the chin, you can get taken out, and that goes both ways. So, one of the big takeaways from this press conference was, again, His Excellency's vision of the winner of this fight fights the winner of Fury Usyk for the undisputed heavyweight world championship. I mean, for Ngannou to fight for the undisputed championship in his third fight could be a rematch with Fury. He could become undisputed heavyweight world champion. For us and for AJ, we've dreamed about that for so many years. I just said to AJ before the face-to-face, 2 wins, you're undisputed heavyweight world champion. And I believe he's going to do it. I really do. I know I'm a fanboy. But I believe he's going to beat Ngannou. Then I believe he's going to beat Tyson Fury. And I would just say February the 17th, Alexander Usyk, I love you, but Tyson Fury, you've got to win this fight, because AJ, once he goes for Ngannou, we've got to make it happen. So good luck to both. But this is what I see, and the vision that is how exciting is that for boxing? That we've got a path and we've got this plan for just brilliant fights in the division.
But you've got to be careful, Eddie.
Big time.
You can't look past this guy. You were meant to fight Deontay Wilder, not you. I'd love to see that. Anthony Joshua against Deontay Wilder was meant to happen. So he was the biggest puncher in boxing. He's now fighting the biggest puncher in the world.
Yeah, and I think that really that is the key here, and that's what AJ said. I'm getting excited about Undisputed. He says, not for me. March the 8th, deal one by one with what's in front of you. And this fight, Frank said the jeopardy in this fight. There isn't a huge amount, although now there is to gain from this fight, because you're going to go into the Undisputed. And I really like that, because leading into this fight, without hearing that news, what is there to gain? Yes, you can do a better job than Tyson Fury, but who really cares? We want World Heavyweight Championships. We want a vision at the end of this story for AJ, and that vision is undisputed. So if this is what it's going to take to get there, got to deal with it. It's not going to be easy. When you're up in the clinch with this guy, you're going to know about it. And you saw Fury very quickly in this fight decide to just stay out of trouble, stay out of range. And this is a guy in Fury who's got a good chin, and he'll know. And if he beats Alexander Usyk, maybe we'll bring him into camp for the last 3 weeks to give us a few tips.
And that's our headline, by the way, Andy.
Do you feel like he's got to the stage of his career now, Anthony, as well, where all of the things that have happened to him can really serve him? Because people talk about, you were talking about jeopardy, and people are talking about Ngannou and what big a threat he is and what level and all this kind of stuff. If he's ever tempted to think about any kind of complacency, Anthony, which I don't believe he would, but all he's got to do is think about June the 1st, Madison Square Garden 2019. He knows what can happen, doesn't he? He knows what can go wrong if you do look too far ahead.
And that's what happens when you're up against someone that, excuse my French, has the balls to throw with you, right? And that's the danger of Francis Ngannou. He will let his hands go when you let your hands go. If you look at the Fury knockdown, he waited for Fury to throw, and he threw with him. And that's what Andy Ruiz did when he was hurt. You've got to be on point at all times against this guy. He will be looking to drag you on the inside, bring you into a dogfight, let his hands go. You've got to be so precise. But the one thing that I kept seeing in that fight with Tyson Fury is I was waiting for Francis Ngannou to gas. And I felt like there were times where it could happen, but Fury just didn't force the pace. But when you force the pace, all of a sudden you're bringing in extra danger. AJ can't afford to be too passive in this fight. He's got to be aggressive enough to slow him down, hurt him. That straight right hand to the body that he threw against Otto Wallin was brutal. You start sinking those in, you'll quickly run out of fuel. But, I'm just so excited about the fight. And Francis is just one of those guys you look at and you just think, oh, mate, you have to really, 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 really put you to sleep, because you ain't going nowhere unless you're out cold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eddie, I've got to ask you, the kind of heading into Fury versus Ngannou, of course, you were quite vocal in your thoughts about the fight. I believe Southern Area title was mentioned as well. How are you finding all of this now? Well, kind of talking up.
When
Ngannou.
I bumped into him outside, I must admit, I did potentially need a new pair of pants, but I still stand by it. I think Francis Ngannou can lose at many different levels of heavyweight boxing. I'm not subscribed to the fact that this guy would beat half of the top 10. He could do, right? But I still think that even at British title level, this guy could get beat. But he could also destroy the opposition at that level because of the assets that he has. So on paper, as we saw in the Fury fight, this should be a relatively straight night's work unless you get chinned. But that's why this division is the only division where someone can stroll in. And someone talked earlier about Floyd Mayweather against Conor McGregor. You could run that 1,000,000 times. Conor McGregor couldn't win that fight. I love him, but he just couldn't. right? You run this a million times, you're getting many different results. And you know, we just hope we get the one we want.
Good luck, Eddie. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sure we'll see you in Fight Week. Thank you, Mr. Eddie Hearn, Mr. Men's Health over there. Well, Andy, give us your kind of final reflection on what we've witnessed today here. Launch Presser, another huge, gargantuan event going on in Riyadh.
I mean, my reflection really is just that we hear that these things are going to happen, and in boxing down the years you hear lots of things, and then they don't come to fruition. And we're now in a position, or personally I'm now in a position where I hear that something is going to happen, and I believe that it will. And that is kind of a new feeling, to be honest with you, when you work in this sport.
It's a good feeling.
A new feeling, and it's a very, very good feeling, because I saw people on Twitter today even saying, we haven't seen much promotion for February 17th. I'll believe it when I see it. And I'm reading it thinking, no, don't worry about that. Barring an injury, this is happening. This is happening on March the 8th. Bivol, Beterbiev, that will happen. Fury, AJ, if they both win, that will happen. That's where we are now. We could say these things with confidence, and it was good to see them kind of look at each other in front of us for the first time, because I always find that interesting, watching, you know, two, you know, big silverbacks, you know, kings of the jungle, just rotating around each other. It's kind of fascinating, because there's always a little bit of marking out of territory going on there, but they didn't really engage too much.
It is fascinating. Andy, thank you as ever for joining me. You've been brilliant as always. Love getting the analysis from the big dog of boxing broadcasting. Come on, you like that, didn't you?
I like that a lot, yeah.
You do like that.
I'll take that.
And thank you for joining us. Look, it's happening. Andy Clark has said it. March 8th. KO Chaos in the Kingdom. These are fantasy fights that are being put on. This is just another one. Anthony Joshua, former two-time unified world heavyweight champion, takes on the king of heavyweight MMA, the man who gave Tyson Fury a fight and a fright, Francis Ngannou, March 8th. Do not miss it.